Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Rosie Rocke. Rosie is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Rosie Rocke. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Rosie Rocke, and Rosie uses her platform to promote animal advocacy, and I just love the work that both her and her husband are doing to spread more awareness to a plant-based lifestyle. But I'm excited for Rosie to share her story and everything that she's been working on. So Rosie, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's just start with your backstory. First off, where you're from and really what your wellness has looked like growing up as a kid. So we fully understand how your outlook on health and wellness has evolved over time.
Well, I was born and raised in Southern California, just recently moved, but I, grew up in my mom raised me and my three sisters on her own, starting from when I was in elementary school. So I was kind of a latchkey kid growing up and, just was left to fend for myself as far as food goes, because there's a pretty big age gap between my older sisters and I. My mom was always working. My sisters were kind of out doing their own thing. And it was just me and my younger sister. We're only a year and a half apart. So we kind of had to figure it out, or my mom would leave whatever if she knew she was going to be gone for a long time, because she was sometimes working 2 jobs. So I don't think I made the healthiest decisions. And growing up in a Hispanic household, we're not necessarily eating a lot of vegetables. We're probably eating a lot more meat and legumes and rice and stuff like that. So as I got older and met my husband, we started working out and we wanted to be healthy and just trying to be better. And originally we started playing with veganism a little bit. My husband was vegan prior to me meeting him and then kind of fell off the wagon because he was vegan in high school and he didn't have a lot of friends that supported that. So I think he kind of just let it fall by the wayside because he didn't have that support. And then when we decided that we wanted to give veganism a go, we started just by slowly cutting out cheese at home. Okay, we're not gonna eat meat at home. We're not gonna purchase any meat products. And then eventually we're like, okay, well, let's get rid of the cheese and the dairy. And I already was not drinking dairy milk because I'm prone to bad acne when it comes to dairy. So that was a fairly easy switch. Then we eventually were just well, we're not eating it at home. We're not craving it. Let's just get rid of everything altogether. We're not going to eat out and not be vegan. So we just went for it and we went fully vegan. And we actually got really into our vegan journey when we went to the LA Fitness Expo. And we went to the vegan booth and we met our now coach. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Fraser Bailey.
Oh no, actually, no. Fraser, he was a guest on the podcast
Oh,
before.
okay. Yes,
I
I
love
thought
no,
so. Yeah.
yeah, he's amazing. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so we actually just got back from Tennessee. We were in Tennessee in I think May, and we stayed with Fraser and his wife Lauren,
Mhm.
and we stayed with them for like a week, and we were just like completely submerged in like a whole like fitness and health like type of, I guess you could call it like a retreat, even though it was just like a one-on-one thing. So it just felt like we were hanging out with friends. We just like made this connection with them at the LA Fit Expo, and from there it just like we just went like full force, like just into it, and really into the health portion of it, because we were like eating vegan, but we weren't necessarily eating as healthily or plant-based as we could be. And so Fraser and Lauren really helped us with those tools to do that and to do it the right way and make sure we're getting all the nutrients we needed and weren't going to be those, those vegans that everyone makes fun of that don't exist.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah, and quick shout out to Fraser and the business that him and his wife do have, and their beautiful new daughter, because
Yeah.
they're so sweet. But no, that's really cool and just amazing that you found them. And to kind of back it up a little bit, Rosie, was there like a reason why you and your husband started to make those changes? Like, were you noticing, was it a weight thing? Was it energy, or did you just kind of know like, hey, we're not really fully taking care of ourselves like we probably should be?
It was kind of a combination of all of those things. We weren't feeling that great. I mean, we were like right before we went vegan and started actually taking our health seriously, our lifestyle was not great. We were huge into watching football every Sunday, and we had this thing, and it's fun, but it's so awful to think about now. And we talk about it all the time. We have no idea how we functioned, but we would like every time there was a touchdown, you take a shot, and like we would go out drinking every Sunday morning, like, and just be so smashed. And it wasn't good, not only for like our mental, but just for our relationship as well. Like we would just, argue or bicker about little things here and there because we were under the influence instead of just being like fully aware of what we're doing and what we're putting into our bodies. So it was a weight thing. It was a mental thing. It was just like an overall just being healthy. We were very overweight at that point in our lives as well. And I think another thing that kind of triggered just wanting to be healthy is my sister had invited me to join her for some workout class, and it was free. I'm sure everybody's heard of it, Orange Theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a class, and I was sold. I was hooked. I was like, okay, I love this and I can do this. So then I made my husband take a class with me. And then that kind of really like sparked our fitness. And like, that's what started into the veganism. Like it was just like, that was the first step. And then we went to the Fit Expo, and we were already vegan at that point. And then we met Fraser and Lauren, and then we signed on to do one of their programs, and we got crazy great results. And then people just started asking us what we were doing, and we're like, we're working with these people. You should talk to them. So yeah, that's kind of how it all kind of flourished into this.
That's amazing. Was there any struggles that you can remember that you had right away? Like, obviously, Fraser, they're incredible at what they do in coaching, but can you remember anything that was personally hard for you to give up, or maybe something you really had to find an alternative to, or can you think of anything like that?
Since I've always cooked, I've found it just really easy to transition. I would say as a California native, it was hard driving by In-N-Out and smelling that. But after a while, I just got over it, and I didn't have any real cravings. And first going vegan on our own, it wasn't very hard. And we were able to be those junk food vegans, but still better than regular junk food.
Right. And you have so many options in California too, which is,
oh my God,
that
so
helps
many
on your end. And like, did it help? You're talking about kind of the food you grew up on, and it is a lot of like rice being lentil based, right? So did that help like with making alternatives on your end?
Yeah, because it was just like, okay, well, I can make rice and I can make beans, and I can just do like some kind of faux meat alternative and just sauce it up however I'd like. So it was fairly easy to kind of replicate recipes. And it's been really awesome because my mom is an excellent cook, but she's not vegan as much as I wish she would go vegan. And she loves to like play around with, traditional like Mexican dishes, and she'll veganize them for my husband and I, and they're always so good. And I'm trying to convince her to open up a restaurant. She's always wanted to, but I'm like, make it vegan.
That's amazing. Well, I'm sure your mom's going to listen to this episode. So,
Yeah.
Mom, we challenge you to a 10-day vegan challenge. And,
yes.
That would be amazing.
Do it, Mom.
Yeah. No, but that's really cool. And I mean, so obviously you say your mom was pretty supportive. How was the support from maybe other friends and family? Because you guys are both doing this together, which helps on the supporting because you both have each other. But how was just on a social side, like how was that transition for you?
It was hard. It was hard because a lot of people don't understand it, and I feel like a lot of people that aren't vegans just don't understand the overall ethical part of it.
Right.
And like, just because it's not a food allergy, it's just as serious if you put something that's not plant-based on my plate and I consume it. Like, it's upsetting. But it was hard because my husband's family, even though he had been vegan for a few years in the past, they're just not very supportive of that. And his mom would constantly be like, come on, just live a little. You can have a little bit. It's just it's a holiday. Come on. And it's like, no, like we're like, this is what we've committed to. And we actually have no desire to eat that or drink that or whatever it was. And then as far as friends go, I feel like our friends are very supportive, and they're always willing to like, we'll eat vegan food. Like, it's fine. Like, we'll try it. So it's not hard on that part. But as far as like family goes, sometimes it can be a little difficult. Even my younger sister kind of will like try and get us to eat stuff. And I'm like, no, thank you. Like, that's just not what we're doing anymore.
Right. And I'm sure it helps too with just, obviously the more consistent you are, and like your friends or family, they're seeing the results that you're having, right? The energy or the weight loss or whatever the case may be, right? So I'm sure they're seeing the results that you're getting from like Fraser and just eating it right.
Yes, for sure. They definitely are. I mean, when I was working in the actual office, like now I still work for my sister. I'm just working remotely. And when I was actually in the office, there was my brother-in-law's sister. It's like a whole family business. Everyone works together. She was working there, and she'd always ask me like, what are you eating? Oh, that smells good. Like, and I would always give her some to try because I just wanted her to see, like, she had tried like Beyond Beef, maybe the crumbles, I think, and she didn't like them. But I'm like, not everything that you try, I get it, you're not going to like. But I was eating more like whole food, plant-based when I was taking my lunch to work there. So she was seeing that, like, you don't have to have like even the faux meats to meet your protein or whatever your goals are. Like, you could still eat really well, and you don't have to buy these processed foods, but you could if you want to. Options are always there, and they're great.
Yeah, and they're great stepping stones. And even if they're not stepping stones, like I know you said like you guys have been vegan for 2 years. I'm at about I'm getting closer to 4. I can't even count anymore. I think 4. Getting closer to 4. But
Yay.
but I have the faux meats occasionally too. Like they're, I mean, as almost like, I don't want to say like a cheat meal, but like a vacation meal or whatever the case may be. Like every once in a while, like obviously, you perfect all the time. Like treat yourself and have those things. So they're awesome. I mean, that way you don't feel like kind of trapped, or you can't have that, faux meat burger or that,
exactly.
If you're like watching the football game or whatever the case may be, at the like tailgate, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Like, what do you think you noticed for yourself personally once you started to get it down? It wasn't so much of the process things. Like, for you, what did you notice more right away? Was it skin, or like was it energy or clarity, or what do you think it was for you?
It definitely was all of the above. My skin was crazy, and it's definitely improved. I feel like it's kind of going crazy right now. I think it has to do with like just like moving and stress. Moving is
stressful. Let's yeah. Moving gets a pass of its own. I understand that.
Yeah. So I feel like definitely I noticed like my skin improved immensely, especially like after doing Fraser and Lauren's program the first time. It was just like my skin was so clear. Clarity as well. Like, I just felt like I could focus more, and I slept better, energy. Like, it's so easy for everyone, let's be real, to make excuses to not work out.
Oh, for sure.
And it's so much easier to just go and get it done now and just feel like, okay, this is just part of the routine. Like, this is just something that I do. It's like brushing my teeth. Like, I just get up and get it done. So I feel like it really gave me that like energy to just do that. And I don't feel as tired throughout the day. Like, I still drink coffee. I love coffee, but I don't feel like I need it around like 3 o'clock like I would prior when I was eating animals and all of that.
Yeah, and I love how you worded that. Just talking about how it's just part of your day, and I think what's really cool about when you really start to dive into this lifestyle, whether you do dive in for your health or for the animals or whatever the case may be, but once you start to learn about the other stuff, it's like it becomes more of your lifestyle. You know, I'm sure you deal with this all the time too, and your husband, like, you know, you go out to eat and they're like, oh man, it must be really hard not to be eating this. It's like, it's really not. It's just it becomes like just part of your choices that you make, and it's not a struggle. It's not hard. It's just because you know what you know, and unfortunately they just don't know what they don't know just quite yet. But yeah, so it's pretty cool how it changes how you look at like everything, you know, whether it is like fashion or, you know, like furniture or just sustainability. It's a rabbit hole. It's a crazy rabbit hole.
It is. It's so true. It's like, how can you be better every day? You're just like, okay, yeah, I'm vegan, but how can I be better? How can I do better? And it's seriously, the only regret I have is not doing it sooner. And I feel like that's what every vegan will tell you. And I get oh my gosh, I get super emotional like watching any kind of animal video. It could be like the sweetest animal video, because I'm just like, how could I have done that? Like, how could I have eaten cows before or anything? And I feel like like when I hear people say, I love animals, but they still eat meat, I'm like, how can you not put those two together? Like, it's heartbreaking. It's seriously, I feel like the most emotional person when I talk about this kind of stuff, because it just breaks my heart. And I don't understand how people can't correlate. Like, that meat you're eating, it has a family. It has feelings. It's so sad.
It is. You know, the blinders are definitely up, especially for adults. And if you don't believe that, like, go talk to a handful of, you know, kids or like your friends' kids. Cause, you know, we have a 3-year-old and, you know, she's been plant-based since she's, you know, started eating food. And and it's been the best decision ever. But it's crazy what she picks up on. You know, she eats you know, what we eat. You know, I'm not like drilling her with all this animal advocacy stuff. We're just living, and that's, you know, what she eats. But it's crazy that when you really listen to when she's saying stuff, like we were reading a book the other day, and like they were cooking a fish. Like it's just a random book, like where like they're cooking a fish, or their fish is like on a fire. And she's just like, no, like the fish has a boo-boo. Like, that's why. Like, that fish has a mouth. Like, that was her. She's like, the fish has a mouth. The fish has eyes. Like, I'm like, she was so confused by that. And that's like just a 3-year. That's just basic logic, right?
Exactly.
Like, because kids get it because they haven't been through the process of TV you know what I mean? It's just like, it's a process over time that we just don't know. So it's crazy once you start to learn more about it. And I know, like you were just saying, like the ethical side of it is super important to you, but that's really not why you started, right? So how were you introduced to that? How did that evolve?
I think, honestly, it probably, for my husband's birthday, I had purchased him tickets to go to an animal sanctuary in LA called the Gentle Barn. And you get to hug cows and pet pigs, and like, it seriously is. I feel like everyone that claims to love animals that still eats meat should go there, because I feel like that totally changed my whole perspective on the ethical side of things. I did it for health, and that's probably a little bit more of a selfish reason to do it, but that was how I started. And the ethical came seriously after going to the Gentle Barn. You go, and it's a fully plant-based sanctuary. She offers food there. The owner's name is Ellie, I believe. And it's like 2 levels. And the first level is like horses and donkeys. And then they tell you, okay, at this time, meet at the stairs. And then your group will go up and you'll listen to the owner give a little like intro onto how the Gentle Barn began. and how she started it and her love for animals. And when she was little, hearing her story like brought me to tears. I was crying, and I've gone to the Gentle Barn another time. I think I've only been twice, and I cry every time I hear her story because it's so wonderful. She just talked about how much she loved animals growing up, and her parents told her, you can't have all these animals, but when you get older, you can have as many animals as you want, and you can, do whatever you want. So she started the Gentle Barn, and she's been rescuing animals from slaughter and other awful situations. And it's so touching because any animal that's there, whether it's a cow or a horse, they all have a story of where they came from, and it's always awful. It's never good, as much as, you wish that it could be. It's
Right.
never good. And just seeing how big some of these animals are, because they're injected with so much GMO and they're massive. Like some of the chickens there, they're so big and their legs are so little, they can't even walk because they can't maintain that.
So sad.
Yes, it's so awful. And just seeing that just really like opened my eyes. I was never one to watch any of those slaughter videos. I can't. It's just a little much for me.
I know, but then you start to follow all those people on social media.
I
Like,
know.
we probably follow all the same people, and like they'll just randomly pop up in your recommendations. You're like, no,
yes,
it's good to see though every once in a while to just remind like why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
And like those videos, like kind of go off on what you were saying with the with the Gentle Barn, like you see these videos of these kids playing fetch with a cow.
Yeah.
There's really on a basic level, like there really isn't a difference between species that we put a difference on. I mean,
it's
like
true.
In other countries, they're eating dogs like they would any other animals, but we frown upon that. But there's no difference. So it's definitely super interesting when you really start to think of it in that perspective. What is your opinion on obviously that space is stereotypically negative, right? Because when you're on the animal advocacy side, right? Because you're looking at animal abuse all the time and trying to save animals that are in really awful situations. And a lot of, I think where vegans get a bad rep is where when you're exposed to so much negativity, it can make people they could make them negative as well. So what is your kind of opinion on just staying positive and in a space that can lead to a lot of negativity?
That's a really good question. It's difficult. It's definitely difficult. I can be, very like, I want to just like argue, but then I have to remind myself, I have to remind myself that that's not necessarily the best way to get a message across. And I just, I kind of try my best with whatever I share online to be kind of lighthearted in regards to animal advocacy, because I feel like people that aren't vegan that follow me, friends, family, sometimes will comment and they're like, oh, that's funny. And I'm like, I hope you see the correlation of the joke and what it's meant and what it actually means. But it's hard. And, I just try and remind myself that I can only do so much to make other people change, but people just have to want to change on their own. So I just keep doing what I'm doing. And, people, my husband in particular, his like biggest thing is he just wants people to see what he's been able to do. So he's all about fitness. Like that was part of us moving, is just kind of like, let's get a fresh start. Let's, he wants to do training, and he's certified now. And he wants people to see like, look, you're not scrawny and thin on a vegan diet. Like you can be muscular and you can be any shape you want on a vegan diet. So I kind of follow his lead. Like he's really great at being positive and just being super helpful and friendly. And he's kind of the yin to my yang, because I'm kind of the opposite, and I can be a little like, no, let's fight about this.
Right. It's hard, especially in the beginning. I think when anybody, starts to see the facts for the first time or learns about it, it's easy to kind of be negative at first until you realize it's like, oh yeah, that's not the best way to really approach things. And I think everybody's kind of dealt with that, especially as anybody listening that is vegan, kind of their initial first little stretch was probably kind of hard on friends and family. That was probably a little too hard.
Yeah. And I know I follow him on Instagram, James Aspie, I believe. And the way he just handles every situation.
All the DMs, right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, every DM, like people will DM him and be like, you mean just hating on the lifestyle and like just to be mean. And then all of a sudden by the end of the text stream, it's like, oh man, you're right. And then like follow up from a year later. Hey man, I'm vegan. Like it's crazy. Go follow him, guys, by the way. He's amazing.
Yes, it's seriously, that is inspiring. And every time I'm like, find myself in a situation where someone's saying something to me about veganism and I want to fight, I'm like, what would James do?
It's a different WWJD.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so inspiring. It's so awesome.
Oh man, that's amazing. Now I'm glad you brought that up because that's a very good example. He does an incredible job at that. And and anybody listening that may be questioning like whether or not they should look into this way of eating or living at all, like he has some really great talks on YouTube as well that are super eye-opening as well. James Aspie, it's Aspey. He's amazing.
He is. He's so good. He's so good at it.
Yeah. And like, I mean, for you, what do you think some of your biggest resources were, besides, Fraser and Lauren, like maybe if it's books or documentaries or other podcasts or things like that, like what was helpful for you guys as you were learning? Because I think people listening, especially if they're newer to this, like they're like, okay, who do I follow? What do I listen to? What do I read?
It was definitely, I think what helped was I have some really great friends that are super supportive and they sent me cookbooks like Thug Kitchen, which is a great, it's a great starter to get into it and to learn about different types of, proteins and quote unquote meat sources or things to use as a meat substitute. So it's really great. That was one. I'm a Google queen. I Google everything. So if I wanted to make something that I was craving, I would just Google that, whatever, let's say it's like, I don't know, a veggie burger, for instance, and I wanted to make my own patty, I would just like vegan burger recipes. And then I just go off that. And then just being really mindful of who I was following, I just started to like, people always say, if you're following accounts that don't make you happy, unfollow them. Well, it's kind of applied for this. Like if I wasn't following accounts that didn't share my same beliefs as far as veganism and stuff like that, for the most part, I would unfollow them depending on like what it is. Obviously, you still want to have people that have different opinions than you and stuff like that. You don't want to just be so one-sided. We're all different. So I just really doing that and just being mindful of who I spend my time with or like trying to just have more open conversations and just doing all of that just helped make it easier.
Yeah. And it really is as simple as that. Like as simple as Google, like, you don't have to buy all the expensive cookbooks and do all of that. Like you literally, you can make a list of every meal that you like to eat, whether it's in a restaurant or something, if you like to cook, like what you like to do and find a vegan recipe, or like if it's a ingredient, like find a vegan alternative. I mean, for example, I was making something the other day that it was like a lentil sloppy joe. And it needed I can't say it right. I can never say this, but Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to say it real fast. So it sounds right. Thank you. Perfect. But I didn't have any. And if you're listening, that's actually, when you typically buy it, it's not vegan. That's something actually, maybe if you're new to veganism, that's something you don't know because they actually add, is it anchovies?
I think
or
so,
something like that. Typically in most bottles, but they sell vegan versions, but you can also make it for like nothing. And you more than likely you already have all the ingredients to make it because it's like apple cider vinegar and like soy sauce or things like that. But it's just as simple as that. Like I didn't have that, so I just made it really quick into a vegan option. And it was most of the time it's cheaper. But literally anything that you like to eat, like you can find a vegan alternative. I mean, it's 2019, like there's everything's on Google. So you don't, even though I do love Thug Kitchen and like I actually really want to have them on the podcast. So
that'd be awesome.
If anybody's listening and knows them, please connect me. But no, that's amazing. And I know that's something that you had mentioned. You were talking about the sanctuary that you kind of wanted to open your own, like that was like dream goal, right? Is to open your own sanctuary. Like, is that a serious
Oh,
goal that you want
yeah.
to do?
That was also part of the reason why moving up to the Pacific Northwest was on our list, because eventually I told my husband, I'm like, the goal is when we're older, like, we're going to have a large piece of land with animals. And he's like, yes, I know. so, so he knows that that's always been my goal, my dream. So eventually, yeah, that's what I would love to do. I know, like, growing up as a kid, I had a little potbelly pig, and she was just like my
Oh,
dog. Like, she would chase my dog around the yard, and my dad eventually got rid of it, and I don't know what happened to her, but her name was Molly. And I think that kind of like sparked it for me. It was just like having an animal that wasn't your typical domesticated animal in your house. So,
yeah.
and I mean, I wasn't vegan as a kid, but I knew that I loved
You
animals.
knew it was
So,
coming.
yeah.
You knew it was coming. No, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I think that's incredible. And I think you guys really should go for that. And on your grand opening, please let me know because I will be there. And
Yeah.
excited to be there. No, that's amazing. And I mean, no, and Rosie, you're really doing a great job, you and your husband with your platforms and being positive and just living by example. So
Thank
I
you.
yeah, no, I love what you guys are doing and just so I just want to make sure people follow you and keep up with everything that you guys are doing. But what are you working on in the future? I know you guys just moved to Portland. So if you're listening and you have some awesome vegan resources in Portland, shoot her a message. That way you guys can connect. But yeah, so what is for the future?
Right now, there's a few things that we've talked about that we'd like to do. As much as I'm an animal advocate, I also care so very much about like human rights and all of that. So my husband is very much into fitness. I enjoy working out for health reasons. I'm not as gung ho about it as he is, but I enjoy it. We eventually, in the more close future, would like to open up like a gym that's just,
That's awesome.
everybody's welcome. We're not going to discriminate, but we will discriminate against non-vegans. I'm going to say that. It is going to be a vegan gym. However we can make that happen, it's going to
Right.
be that. So
Right.
kind of our goal, our more recent goal, but I don't know, we just talked about how we need to update. We use a vision board and we use all of that to kind of help get our goals done. And it's honestly, since we started it, it's just been like nonstop checking stuff off. So we're just really trying to focus on the next thing, which would be that. And honestly,
Oh,
I just would
awesome.
like to get more involved with like anything that's going to help either people or animals. So
That's amazing. Well, now I have two grand openings to come to, so
yeah,
I have to make a few
exactly.
Portland trips. No, that's incredible. And I mean, yeah, you guys should definitely do that. It's definitely, needed. Just having that atmosphere, even though I know it sounds silly for maybe people listening. It's like, oh, it's just a vegan gym. It's like, it's just a gym, right? But it's different. It's an environment where you can
Yeah.
learn more and connect with like-minded people. And even if you're not vegan, like you're there's always things to learn. So I think it's a really incredible idea and excited for you guys. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And Rosie, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with everything that you guys are doing. And then also, if they're in Portland, they can shoot you a message to connect.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on all social media platforms for the most part. I mainly use Instagram. I have a Twitter that I don't really use that often. I'm not that great at Twitter.
I'm with you on that one. It kind of just gets on my reposts, but I'm trying.
Yeah, see, I forget that I have it, and I'm like, oh, let me go see what's happening at Twitter, and I'm like, oh, nothing, because I don't do anything on here.
Right.
But mainly Instagram, and my handle is just Rosie, ROSIE _ Rocke, ROCKE. And yeah, that's where everyone can pretty much find me and talk to me there.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I'll put that in the show notes. That way people can go give you a follow, get you more active on Twitter and and all of that. So perfect. And Rosie, just closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's something that's been your biggest takeaway on your wellness journey so far. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
Just really stay true to yourself and what you believe is right. And if you can find someone that believes in that same thing, it's even better and it makes it easier. So that would be it.
I love it. No, that's perfect. I love it. And just Rosie, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I love the work that you guys are doing and excited for you guys, for everything that you guys have planned, and excited to follow along. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Rosie. She's doing so much positive work, so be sure to give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Rosie's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Rosie, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.